Have you ever met such personality who want to talk about themselves? They are self-obsessed people, right? So every time they talk, they bring back their conversation about themselves, so that they can talk about only themselves, their hobbies, their likes, their dislikes, their emotions, etc., etc. So, my question is, do you like to be in company of such people around you? I think your answer would be, of course, we have met such people, and it would not be very comfortable around us if we get that company. Now, imagine if such kind of personality write poetry, what would be their subject matter? Obviously, they will bring back all their personal things in it, and basically, the subject matter or the topic would be the quote unquote I. Now, if a poet does the same thing, the poet is called immature, and his poetry would not be quite acceptable universally. And T S Eliot also disliked such poetry and such poets in his lifetime. And from this point of view, T S Eliot developed one theory that is called the theory of impersonality in his seminal essay, Tradition and Individual Talent, in the year 1919. And this essay was first published in the Egoist in the same year, but later in his second critical essay in the Sacred Wood, it was published in the next year, in the year 1920. And T S Eliot, in his essay, The Tradition and Individual Talent, says that the progress of an artist is a continual self-sacrifice, a continuous self-extinction or personality. And this thought is proven throughout developing a theory, the theory of impersonality, that I am going to discuss today. So before I get into the discussion, I want to request you all to watch my video till the end and share it with your friends if you find it helpful. So let us move forward. So here comes the theory of impersonality. In order to prove how the theory of impersonality works, T S Eliot suggests an analogy of a catalyst that we find in a scientific laboratory for the process of depersonalization. And here the poet T S Eliot compares a poet to a catalyst, that is shred of platinum that we find in a chemical library, not in any other place. And in that chemical library, when oxygen and sulfur dioxide are mixed, in that chemical reaction, a filament of platinum is required to make that reaction happen. When these things react together in the presence of platinum, they form sulfuric acid, something new. And this combination takes place only in the presence of platinum, and that works as a catalyst. And being a catalyst, it does not show any kind of trace on the new thing, that is sulfuric acid, and remains unchanged, unaffected, because it only facilitates, it does not participate. And minding that process, here T S Eliot says the poetic process is a reaction, is like a chemical reaction, and the poet is compared to a shred of platinum. And like the platinum does not show any kind of trace on that sulfuric acid in that chemical reaction, similarly the poet's personality or the trace of poet's personality should not be visible on the final product that he has already created. Eliot refutes the idea that the poetry is the expression of poetic personality or poet's personality. He also refutes the romantic emphasis on genius and exceptional mind. According to him, sublimity, greatness, and intensity of emotion are irrelevant. He says that it is not the greatness of emotion that matters, but it is the intensity of poetic process or the pressure under which all those artistic combinations or artistic fusion happens. For Eliot, emotions occasioned by events in the personal life of the poet is not important. What important is that when these emotions got transmuted into poetry and the feeling expressed throughout poetry, and that is universally accepted. Later on, he rejects all the theory of Wordsworth, and we all know that Wordsworth said, poetry is the spontaneous overflow of powerful feelings, and it takes its origin from emotions recollected in tranquility. T S Eliot completely rejects this idea. He says that poetry should not be so simple, and it is not the expression of poet's own emotional outcome. And Eliot thinks that poetry should be the expression of such complexity that once he has faced during the First World War. He faced that human emotions, human mind, a human heart, and human nature all were crashed at that time. They were not at their true nature. So, from that complexity, a poetry should come into existence. That is his idea. And he believes that poetry is not turning loose of emotions but an escape from emotion, and it is not the expression of poet's personality but an escape from personality. So that was his idea. With such belief, later on, T.S. Eliot gives us the solution how an artist can achieve that personality into his writing. So, if we concentrate on the title of the essay, we find two things. One is tradition, and the other thing is the individual talent. So, according to T.S. Eliot, the poet should concentrate on these two things and fuse them together in order to create something new that has never been created before. So, what is tradition and how this tradition works for the poet? So, according to Eliot, following tradition means following all those previous poets and studying their works. And while studying their works, that poet would gather different knowledge, or he would definitely learn different things. Means he would definitely learn some nuances, some style, some themes, their writing pattern, etc., etc. And the poet would gather all those things into his consciousness incessantly. And when the poet starts to write poetry, he would gather all those learnings that he has brought from tradition and fuses them with his own individual talent, with his own experiences, and make something new, and that has never ever been composed before. And that's how the poet's mind becomes the laboratory where the fusion takes place. And according to Eliot, this is the way a poet can depersonalizes his own personality from his own trace from the new combination that he has created. T S Eliot mentions that every mature poet does that with the help of tradition and the objective correlative. Objective correlative does not show any trace of poetic personality in the new combination of poetry. And here T S Eliot brings out the example of the canonical poet John Milton, and we can also take up his epic poetry, The Paradise Lost, where Milton, following the Greek tradition of epic poetry, he wrote his own poetry, Paradise Lost, and he also bring out all his personal traits, personal experiences, and individuality through the use of objective correlative in the character called Saturn. But we cannot find any kind of trace on that character, any kind of his own personal trait. So he, with such prominent hand, he depersonalizes his poetry. That's why he is a canonical poet, and his poetry is read all over the world. That's how T S Eliot expresses this theory of impersonality in his essay Tradition and Individual Talent. And that's it for today. I hope this was helpful. Let me know in the comment below. So, for now, I am signing off. Bye bye.